Vasishta continued. The illusory notion of the existence of the mind, etc., persists only as long as the sublime realization of the truth is not experienced through the company of the wise who are totally unattached, and as long as wickedness has not been weakened. So the existence of the mind, etc., this etc. refers to all these notions which we take as real, notions of body, notions of being somebody, notions of a physical world out there. These are all notions, and they persist only as long as the truth has not been realized. And when it is realized, it's obvious that all of this has a certain dreamlike quality. And we're encouraged to seek the company of the wise who are totally unattached. We learn attachment. We learn attachment through our peers, through being educated. It didn't come naturally to us. Well, it did come naturally, but it was certainly reinforced by company. So being with those who are not reinforcing this kind of behaviour, being with people that haven't got some kind of axe to grind, can be quite liberating. And the wickedness that has not been weakened, we're not talking about wickedness in some kind of moral sense. We're talking about the wickedness of compromising ourselves, compromising our sense of being, compromising our potential, wasting ourselves. We've been sold shoddy goods. That's what's wicked. As long as the experience of this world as a reality has not been shaken by the energy derived from the clear perception of the truth, so long the existence of the mind, etc., seems to be self-evident. It's so self-evident that most people just won't know what I'm talking about, and I shall have to be dismissed to some sort of fringe, some kind of fringe nut job. But there we go. Such a notion continues as long as there is blind dependence on account of craving for objective experience, and as long as there are wickedness and delusion as a consequence. Wickedness is about not wanting to look into this. We buy the most absurd stories, and you don't have to be religious to believe in absurdity. People that consider themselves scientific buy the most incredible nonsense. And I've explored notions of perception. Notions of perception don't add up at all, but we all believe there's something there, and there's a me here, seeing it with an I here. This might seem obvious to you, but it's not. It doesn't bear up under inquiry. I was having a little chat with somebody recently about the scientific story of evolution. And what is this story basically? We've got a very limited number of molecules. 92, I think, is the naturally occurring number of elements. And even it's a small subset of that. I don't know how many, maybe a dozen or so, maybe a bit more than that. But the scientific story is, if you take a large number of these molecules and you leave them lying around long enough, they'll somehow get together and start doing art, having politics, getting into creating religions and all the rest of it. They'll start being able to visualize things. Isn't that extraordinary? Do you believe that story? That's a scientific story. That's what we call evolution. I just think it's quite ludicrous, and I'm not saying we should replace it with another story. No, I'm not going to say we should start believing in God and all the rest of it. I think we should just look into these stories and realise how essentially absurd they are. They've got their uses, but this idea that we can, a bunch of inert atoms, given enough time, will eventually start doing art and having wars and all the rest of it, and be able to have thoughts. We're carbon-based life forms. How do carbon molecules, which are the basis of organic chemistry, start being able to visualize dragons, have memories, contemplate future scenarios? But that's the scientific story, and it is wickedness and delusion. It's wickedness because we just take it on board, don't we? We don't think about it, we just take it on board. That's the scientific picture. And if you're religious, you say, well, God did it all, which is just putting another story in which is even more ridiculous. But in the case of one who is not attracted by pleasure, whose heart is cool because of its purity, and who has shattered the cage of desires, cravings and hopes, the deluded notion of the existence of the mind ceases to be. Now we're getting right to the heart of things here, because we've been told how everything is notions, but even that which creates notions is notional. The mind is a notion. When he sees even his body as the deluded experience of a non-entity, how can a mind arise in him? So the body is also a notion. He who has a vision of the infinite, and into whose heart the world appearance has merged, does not entertain the deluded notion of a jiva, etc. So jiva is notions of an individual, notions of a soul, whatever.